Jade Tailor, thank you for being here.
Oh, of course. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Okay, I'm so excited that this is happening. Sometimes when you watch a lot of TV or you love a TV show and you love a character on the show, when you meet that person, sometimes they say like, don't meet your heroes or don't meet a performer that you love. I had just finished, I think like my third time binging The Magicians when I met you. I
Mm.
think I had just finished and I saw you and I immediately had this warm energy towards you and I was so happy to know that you were as sweet and as present and intelligent and thoughtful as you are.
Oh, that means so much. I
I
really,
was like, yay, this actress that I love who played a character so well that I really appreciated is like a genuine, sweet, present, smart person. This is amazing.
oh, that means so much. Yeah. It's really funny. Every time, most of the time when people meet me, they don't actually realize that I'm the character. I was like, I usually say to them, it's because I smile a lot more in person.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I will take that. Thanks, honey.
Yeah, you smiled big. You smiled really big. I remember walking in the room and they were like, oh yeah, our friend Jade, she's an actress. She's gonna be here. She's on that show Magicians. And I was like, oh shit, I'm about to fangirl out. I and so you know what the thing is, like, as an actress is, you played Kady on The Magicians. Early in that show, she dishes out some battle magic, and everyone's like, "That's not allowed." And so right away, you're like, "Oh, this girl's in on some stuff that no one's even getting taught. She just got into break bills." What is, as an actress, was that like a super fun character to play?
Fun is an understatement. Fun is an absolute understatement. It was like beyond fun. I mean, first of all, to be able to, I love the books. I love the books, The Magicians by Lev Grossman. I fell in love with it. And this was a character that wasn't actually in the books. In a way she was, because she was kind of a meld of a couple different characters, Amanda Orloff and then Asmodeus later on, but we don't really know that because this is Kady Orloff Diaz. And in the book, she dies right away. And when I first got the first initial pilot script, she died as well. And then after I had auditioned for it, they then changed the script and were like, actually, we're not going to kill you. And I'm like, oh, wow, great. So it was so much fun to both play this unknown character in this world that I already like fell in love with, and to be able to make it my own. But also, she's a badass. I mean, who doesn't want to play a badass?
Yeah, totally. She's the badass. She's sexy. She's like excelling at this like Ivy League magic school, and she's in with the head witches, so much so that it's like such a pain in her ass.
Yeah.
It's like she's badass is the right word for her. So good.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's super interesting, that you're an actress who's played this and other interesting, cool roles, and you're also, really present and interested in on your own spiritual journey.
Mhm. Well, thank you. I
And
appreciate that. To me, it's actually, I was doing one of my journeys recently, and realized that it's because they're one and the same to me. Like
yes,
my spiritual journey, my inner journey is the same as playing this character that's having their spiritual journey or inner journey, that is outwardly expressed, right? So to me, it's actually both my creative, like storytelling, and my spiritual journey have the same sort of like value underneath of it all, which is really about understanding this human experience and understanding like this human body on the spiritual path. So yeah, I think to me it's interesting that they actually at the core of them they are one and the same.
yeah, and I love what you are doing with your production company, Iris. with the intention of supporting women's voices, women's stories. We were actually talking one day, you were leading a writers group, which I was fully fangirling out for being it. And you helped me so much, by the way, like the tips and everything that for what I was writing, you gave me such good direction and inspiration, and it just like brought this life into it, and it was so helpful. So I also just want to plug this in real quick. I know that you offer coaching.
Yeah.
So quick endorsement here. Like I was helped so much by you, and what I saw was you were very intuitive. You didn't have like an agenda for what you were offering to me in that moment or to the group or anything. You heard me, and you like thought and then responded with something that felt like it was really just for me in that moment.
Thank you for saying that. That means so much. That means so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
So, okay, so tell me a little bit about how you approach your coaching and what that's all about.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think I'm glad you said like that. I was like listening and responding and intuiting for you, because I think as humans, we are not one alike, right? Like we are 80 trillion unique human cells in this, like this iteration, this body, right? So to be like, this is the thing that fits all, I don't believe in. I think every person is unique, and we should treat everyone as such. And to find out what makes them tick, what resonates for them, what inspires them, what excites them. And so I treat it just like I would like analyzing a character for acting, going, okay, well, who is this person? What is their backstory? Where do they come from? What empowers them? What excites them? What inspires them? What do I know to be like true about them? And then like offering things that couldn't support them on that specific journey that they are on. And so I love that you said intuitive, because I love my mom. Actually, I think I get this from my mom, because shameless plug to my mom. She is a spiritual healer, guide. She's a holistic doctor, something called an iridologist, which is like this fascinating study of the iris, and she can basically see everything that's going on with you by looking into your eyes. But it's like a map of the world, but it's a map of your particular body. And the thing one of the biggest things I learned from her was that no human is alike, that she actually looks at each individual and looks at their specific mapping and goes, oh, okay, I can see where there's a deficiency here, or I can see where like there's this thing that's overproducing here, or where you get to have a little bit more attention or focus. And so I think I perceive things in the same way, going, okay, like let's look at the whole and go, okay, where can that be elevated, or where do we need a little less of that and a little more of this flavor. So it's kind of how I like to approach it, but I also approach it kind of from the inner and outer work, going, okay, what's the inner work that we get to do as humans, whether that's from like a conscious or subconscious level. And then what is the like committed action or outer work that we get to do? So like if we have a vision to, have this amazing like modern spirituality podcast to be like one of the top 100, basically you got all that. So but if you have a vision and you want it to come to life, what are the physical action steps that you can take, and are there any things that are inhibiting that on an inner level that we get to sort of break through or move through in order to get there? Hope that kind of sums it up in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I love that. And I always feel like when it comes to working with a coach, there's certain, for me, there's certain things that really relate to, like, does this person actually have access to a broad set of like, I'm a wild beast over here. Like you said, no humans alike. So for me, that's
you're a wild beast.
Yeah, that's like some of the important stuff for me, is like, it's important for me to hear like, well, it's not always what people want to hear, but it's so important to hear, well, it's not going to be the same for everyone. It's not going to be the same for everyone. And it's like so necessary. But that was what the magic was. It's like, I think once you've been with you've been around the block, and you have an idea of like what's out there. You have a sort of a taste for something you do not like, and then you have a taste for something that's actually good, you know. And I actually felt that with you. I was like, this is a clear mind. This is like a person with clear present intentions. You know, I always think it's weird that it's like nobody's perfect. It's like, who even said anything about that? Like, what does that even mean? You know, but what I felt was like, I can trust this person. And I felt like we could go really, really scary places together.
I love that. Well, I think that's also a testament to just who you are and your willingness to just jump in. Like when you say beast, I'm like, you are a beast. You will tackle anything and go anywhere. And I just love that about you.
Well, how did you get into acting? How did you
You
get
know,
into all that?
so it's so funny. I was really lucky. Well, I'll both tell you sort of the hard part and the great part. So when I was a kid, I kind of grew up in a bit of a traumatic environment. Uh, I don't like to say because my dad and I have a great relationship now, but it was an abusive household, and my dad was going through a lot of PTSD from being in like special forces, Israeli army, and it was just not easy. And my mom, she was actually an actress back in the day, and she was I'll have to send you a photo because it's pretty amazing. Do you know Donnie and Marie Osmond?
Yes, of course. I'm Mormon.
Okay, oh my God. Okay, so
I was raised Mormon. Yeah.
that's great. My mom was on the Donnie and Marie show. She was one of the
Wow.
ice skaters, and she played Donnie's love interest. So she was a performer, like a hardcore. She has these like photos of her in these 50-pound headdresses next to Donnie. It's really cute. I'll have to send you
Love that.
some photos before she became a holistic doctor. And it's interesting because growing up in a very like tumultuous household, like not with my mom, but with like my dad and all like dealing with all of that, it just felt unsafe to even speak at times, to the point where I stopped talking. And my mom, because she was a performer and she really supported the arts and knew how it helped her to heal and helped her in so many ways. She says all the time, she's like, I wanted to give you your voice back. So she put me in singing lessons when I was 7.
Wow.
And I was always
That's why you had those pipes.
thanks. I'll take that.
Yeah, you got some pipes. Have you ever released any music?
Yeah, so I released a single last year, and then called All Blood Runs Red. Actually, it was about a year and a half ago, and I've been working on some music since with a good friend of mine, Colin Martin, who's amazing. So working on it. So we're going to release it fairly soon.
Love it.
I've been really enjoying the writing process and doing all that. And, you know, it's sometimes hard to balance time with like, because I'm acting and writing and directing and then doing the music. So music is like my little love child that is just like my own personal vulnerable thing that I do. So I take a little bit more time with that, but it'll come out soon, I promise. But to go back to my mom giving me those lessons, when I was a kid, she would take me to musicals because she loved them so much. And she would literally wake me up to musicals. Do you know that song like Good Morning from Singing in the Rain?
Yes.
Morning, good morning, you slept. Anyways, it goes on. But
oh, nice.
oh, thanks. I wasn't doing the full thing, but
I know.
you're too cute. But she would wake me up to that, and because she's such a ham, she'd like come in the room singing that really big. So I grew up with that kind of performance energy, and I always knew that was what I was meant to do. And I think she was also my mom, because she was an actress. She was friends with a lot of random actors back in the day. So Dee Wallace, who played the mom in E.T., Dee Wallace Stone, she essentially was my first acting teacher when I was 10 years old. So my mom was like, hey, we don't have money, can you give us a deal? And because they were friends, she let me take these classes. And I was terrified at first, but it was my form of expression. It was the place where I felt safe to actually express myself. And so it became both like my deepest love and like the greatest healing tool for me.
Wow.
So that's basically it.
I love that. And I read somewhere that you so you started young, started training young, but I read somewhere that you actually weren't allowed to audition until you were 18. Is that true?
Yeah. Well, so as amazing as my mom was in like giving me that gift, my mom also wasn't around that much because she moved to New York, and my brother and I, we were like 9 and 10. We were in LA. We were by ourselves, in a house. Nowadays that's illegal, but but back when I was a kid, I was like, we didn't know that that was a bad thing. So my mom would just go to New York and work for months at a time, and basically my brother and I had to parent ourselves. And so
Wow.
she's like, if you want to do it, fine, but you're not doing it until you're 18 and you're like out and doing it on your own. Cause I'm not supporting that. Like, I don't have the means to. Like, I'm putting a roof over our heads and that's all I can do. After my parents got divorced when I was about 9. So that was her, yeah, basically like, go do it in school, go perform, go, like, I'll support you and giving you singing lessons, but that's all I'm doing. And you want to do the rest, figure it out. So that's what happened. So I did.
Wow, and you figured it out.
Yeah.
Amazing. There is we do have in our origin stories, we do have Johnny Osmond in common.
Do you? Oh, tell me more.
Yours is significantly more closely connected. But when I was a little kid, my mom, I have 4 brothers, Mormon household, lots of straight men everywhere, but me.
I'm so
It's a
sorry.
lot. I know, it's a lot. And when I was a kid, my mom would take me on we would go on dates, she and I would go do things no one else wanted to do. So I was her favorite, clearly. And we went to see Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat starring Johnny Osmond.
I love that so much.
I was like, I'm doing that. I'm going to play that role in that play. I'm still committed. One day it's happening.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely, it's happening. Do you have the coat? Do you have the coat of many colors?
I don't have it, but I'm working on the body because he has to be shirtless a few different times on
Yeah. Come
that.
on, I've seen you. I've seen you. You don't need it. We
I'm
got
working on it. We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, we actually saw him multiple times, and he was Mormon, so everyone was, and my family's Mormon, and we were always talking about, oh, when he's in Chicago performing, he goes to that Mormon church, and like people are like, they're like, oh, he goes to the blah 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 Chicago Heights area location or whatever. So it was really funny to hear you bring them in and love that your mom was on that show and everything.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it is smart to just say, like, sorry, no auditioning till you're 18. Not that kept you out of any trouble.
Definitely didn't not.
You still
No,
found
no.
your own way.
Yeah, I've definitely rebelled as a kid. You know, when you deal with trauma and things, you kind of have to figure it out. And I roughed my way through. No, but I think, it does, because then you actually, you can choose it for you. And if it's still something that you still want to do at 18, it's kind of like getting a tattoo. It's going to be permanent. So like, choose wisely. And if you still want it at 18, then get it and go for it and do it,
Hmm.
because it's not for the faint of heart. I'll say that, because like,
Hmm.
people have to really be determined and want it and be willing to commit sometimes 10 plus years to get their first thing. It just takes time and dedication.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, I
last,
remember I remember moving to LA about age 18
amazing.
to be an actor or whatever. And I remember the whole story was like, I'll try it out for a year.
Mm-hmm.
What? Who put that totally terrible, bad, unreal, useless idea in my mind? What?
I mean, I think because we're, especially our generation, like, we were taught that it's like the overnight success, and like all of a sudden they become so famous.
Right.
And I think in some ways that was true. It was a different world. Um, but I also think it's like, actually, there was a lot of hard work before that. And then all of a sudden they have the success.
Right. Right. It's like a overnight success after 30 years
Yeah, exactly.
of work.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Okay.
calculated
So
how long it took me to get my first TV series, and I think it was probably 9 years.
wow. And you've actually done a lot of really interesting roles. So I have a question about that. Like I have some friends who are actors, and some, it's like you look at the different roles people play. Some people have like a whole wide range where it's like really all over the place. You know, how do you determine which roles you're going to accept, which auditions you're gonna even, which roles you're even going to be submitted to? Like, what's your relationship to what roles you take?
Yeah,
Because you
well,
have interesting roles.
thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. I'll take that. Well, I always say, like, this is a weird mentality, and I kind of get this from, I was watching like master class the other day, and I tend to like, I watch a lot of people on there, but I was, for whatever reason, I was watching Samuel L. Jackson the other day, and what he was saying is he says yes to everything. It's like any opportunity that he can act in, he says yes to. For me, it's the same but different. I say yes to auditioning for everything. I
Mm,
say yes to taping for anything, because what we forget about is actually we are putting ourselves in front of a casting director, and whether or not we're right for that, we can say no after if we get offered the part. But we might not have a relationship with that casting director, or we might be able to show them a different side of us that they might then think of us for something even bigger, or something even like different that we never thought of. Like, for example, a friend of mine, my friend Rachel Markarian, she amazing actress, I've known her for many years, and she auditioned for something. I don't remember what specifically she auditioned for, but the casting director remembered her a year later, year and a half later, called her and said, "Hey, do you want to have this role in Top Gun?" We never know
wow.
what kind of impact we're going to make on a relationship or a casting director. So I tend to say yes to everything in that regard, and then go, okay, now let's really see, is this lining up with sort of values, vision, what is it that I want to say, who is it that I'm like acting with? And I mean, I've been really lucky. I will say I've been really lucky to work with some amazing people. And if it's interesting, if I didn't say yes to the show Aquarius with David Duchovny, for example, which was such a fun, fantastic role, period piece, and I mean, played David love interest, so that was, got to make out with David Duchovny. That was always fun. But the executive producer of that show, John McNamara, he then came up to me on the set of that show and said, "Hey, I'm doing a new series called The Magicians. I'd love you to read for it." So you
Wow.
never know what's going to lead to what if you just follow sort of what your truth is or what value you have. And there's been numerous times where I've been on set, like even for Aquarius, technically it was a guest spot. And but I loved the piece. I loved that world. And then they wrote me in for more episodes after getting to work with them. And then that led to another thing. So I would say, like, always follow like your passion, follow the thing that you feel called to. I love period pieces. I love interesting things. I love things that are different and unique, and that really say something, that like have something important and valuable to say. Like The Magicians, yes, it was this fantastical world, but at the core and the heart of it, it was about these like unique individuals that were going through like real human struggles, and these relationships and connections that they had. Yes, they so happen to have these magical abilities, but it also allowed us to sort of absorb these real human struggles in a way that just felt a little bit more digestible because of these magical and fantastical elements. And people related to it so much. And whether that was addiction or mental health or suicidal ideation, all these things that were addressed in this
Grief.
show.
Mhm.
Yeah, grief, all of it. So for me, it's really like saying something important. And I knew my dog was going to talk at some point. Ducky, if you want to,
Ducky.
he really wants attention. Come here, buddy.
Come here, buddy.
He's coming. He's on his way. That's
Aw.
he's got a loud bark for this little teeny human. I called him a human.
Oh,
I think he's a human.
what a cutie. Hey, Ducky.
He was my little foster fail COVID rescue.
Oh, so you were fostering and then you decided to be the forever home.
Yeah. I mean, I like, look at this little cutie. He's got contact
Aw.
alopecia, so he's half naked.
Aw.
Yeah, I mean, he's just such a love bug, and he's just gonna keep licking me the whole time. I was like, I can't
Aw.
bring him back. Like, how could someone give it this adorable little creature back, you know?
Yeah, adopt, don't shop.
Exactly.
There's our little PSA right there. Adopt, don't shop. There's so many little love bugs out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. This is really exciting. I want to talk a little bit more about your like personal development work, if those are the right words. Maybe they're
Yeah.
not the right words, because I think it's really interesting to have that part of your work, and see it, because for me, the personal development work, I actually, my gateway into it was really because of acting, meditation, and sort of like taking on other, feeling into other people's circumstances and things like that. I did that in acting classes as a little kid. It
Totally.
was super cathartic. So I want to kind of like hear from you. I know that you were a counselor for victims of domestic violence. Is
Mhm.
that right?
Yeah.
And so how did you get into that work? And is that part of your work, how you got into the work with personal development, or are those
Yeah.
connected for you?
Yeah, so actually the personal development work, the self-development stuff, that actually started when I was 13. So my mom, again, she was like building her clientele when we were young. And in order to do that, she would do trades with people. So sometimes it wasn't like, okay, if you can't afford to pay me, well, then what service do you have? And we'll just do trades, and then you can like pass my card along to the next person. And that's how she was building her business. And one of the things was this teen course for self-development. So like, given that I had gone through like some deep challenges, I didn't really know how to deal with the trauma of my childhood, and really got into like a dark place, got kicked out of school, um, got into drugs at a really young age. There's a lot of like heaviness. I think I quit doing drugs and all the things by the time I was 16, but it was like there was a dark period where I didn't know how to deal with all of the struggles that I was going through. And so it was a saving grace in so many ways, that and my creativity. So when I got kicked out of school, I got sent to a continuation school, and I saw everything that I didn't want to become. Like people that were angry, people that were just like didn't care about life, didn't have a vision or a purpose or something driving them. And I knew that I was meant to be a creative. And so I would literally go home and I would read self-development books. I had like oh gosh, Ask and It Is Given, and all of these like quantum physics books and all these things, because my mom just had them all. And so I would go,
Nice.
I would study, and then I would sing for hours, and I would read plays, and I knew, and it allowed me to then get back into school, and then I became the heads of like the theater company and the thespians and like every choir, and it just, those things really helped to sort of form me. But the self-development work and that self-awareness, and the creative expression, to me, it's all about human understanding at its core, or spiritual understanding, and like spiritual understanding in this human form, and so I have always done them hand in hand or side by side. And then I continued to do it. I, did all of like the landmark stuff, and I did like MITT, LifeSpring, all of these different self-development things. And then I became a coach in it for the past 10 years. And then the domestic violence stuff, because of how I was raised, I just wanted to be able to give back. And I had because I was able to overcome so much of that trauma because of that work, I wanted to be able to support others and being able to move through it. Because I think oftentimes there's this narrative that people actually can't heal. whether you're an addict or something else. Like I was an addict when I was a kid. I was put on like crazy kinds of medication and I became an addict and I was able to get through it. And I don't believe anything is permanent. And to me, yeah, they're like, like I was saying kind of at the beginning, that at the core, it's just all about understanding ourselves more deeply. Like, what is our trauma? What is our truth? How can we move through that and understand it more deeply? And the same thing with acting. Like I'm looking at a character going, okay, what is their trauma? What is their truth? How can I break that person down and understand the ins and outs of them? And the better I can understand myself, the better I can understand a character, and the better I understand my inner workings, the better I can support someone else in understanding their inner workings and how they walk through life and what stops them or what inspires them. So yeah, I kind of have been doing both since I was like 10, 11, 12, 13. And I won't say how old I am, but it's been a long time.
Not that long.
Thanks, I'll take that.
Yeah.
But it's been a minute. And I just, yeah, I've always had this interesting balance of both. And I think they're both sort of vital in order to be able to live a creative life, or whatever your purpose is, whether that's creative or otherwise. To be able to understand oneself, you're able to tap into the core of that and why, and that your vision or your purpose for being on a different level.
Do you meditate every day?
All the time. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I notice when I'm like rushing it or when I'm like, oh, I'll just give
Mhm.
myself 5 minutes today because I got to do all these things. Like it affects my entire being.
Mhm.
It just does. Mindfulness, I think, is one of the greatest gifts and tools that we can give ourselves.
And so when it comes to other practices, are you like a journaler? Do you pray? What are some of I know some of I
Yeah.
have some little hints at some
Yeah.
stuff that you're up to, but I just want to invite you to share a little bit about your relationship to spirituality, how you connect, what your practices are like.
Yeah, I think it ebbs and flows in a sense, because I'm a seeker, I would say, just like you. Like I feel like
Yeah.
we're constantly seeking for the next, or the deeper, or the next thing to inspire or empower or encourage. And so I'm always journaling, but what I'm journaling about is different. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, like let's see, what is it that I get to work through or move through? What is it that I'm processing or learning about life or myself right now? Boundaries was something that was coming up for me recently, and really understanding what it is to be boundaried. And because I like to do a lot for other people, and sometimes to my own detriment. And so going, oh, well, actually boundaries really help to hold my own foundation. And what does that look like? And where does that come from in me? So there's a lot of deep inner work and processing and understanding. And in the self-development stuff that I do, I work with this company called Atlas, which is from the basis of LifeSpring, which is all about experiential learning. So I go through and do a lot of experiential practices, but because I think it's one thing to cognitively process something, but it's another to somatically understand it. So to like actually move through it and go through a physical experience or exercise, because again, we're not all alike. So for us all to go through, like, let's say you and I went through a physical experience together, we would both have a unique experience. And so it's not someone telling you this is how you should feel or think or do, but like, let's do an exercise together. Whether that's like breath work, or it's something like some kind of catharsis or whatever it is, and we can like process and see, okay, what is there for me? What am I learning from it? So I do all sorts of things. I mean, the list goes on, but yeah, journaling, breath work, all sorts of ceremony, prayer. To me, it's I do a lot of like dance movement meditation, because to me, like the somatic work and allowing myself to like move it through my body, like chanting, because I think we're an instrument, and especially as
Yes.
these beings on this planet, like I've recognized when I don't do that consistently, I go into depression. Like I find like, I'm like, oh, I'm sad today. Why does that? Oh, I haven't sung, I haven't chanted, I haven't allowed myself to move. Like, so to me, it's vital. for my
Right.
mental health, for everything, for my spiritual health, all of it.
I would love to chant with you sometime.
Yes, anytime.
Yeah, I actually have singing in common. My parents got me singing lessons as a kid also.
I
So
love
we
that.
so there's like this part of me that like needs to be singing, you know? And it's like, and then like when you do, it's like, I know all the lyrics. Please, I must finish this song.
Totally. Totally. Drives my brother nuts, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So let's you and I will do it. We'll do it together.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you know my boyfriend Sai, he, he's like, babe, you haven't been singing in a few days,
I love
you
that
know?
so
Or
much.
he'll just stop and listen to me sing.
That's so sweet. That makes me
It's so
so
sweet.
happy.
Yeah, I love that, and I totally relate to that. You know, the all of the different broad strokes of you know, relationship to all of the different kinds of ways in, you know, all of those are different techniques to go in to the inner world, to the higher world. How would you describe the higher power?
Mm. Ah, that is a great question. You know, for me, the relationship to it has always changed in a sense because they say the smartest people know that they know nothing. Not saying that I'm smart, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm clear on what this is, but then I'm like, how can anyone know except for what is true for us? Right. And to me, it's this, like, I was raised about like with an understanding of Akashic records and our higher selves, ascended masters, like a goddess, God, whatever you want to call it, a universal spirit, whatever it is for you. I think we can call it anything we want, and to me, it's just the divine presence that's within all of us. I think it is all of us,
Mhm.
really.
And so were both of your parents Jewish, or just your father's Jewish?
So it's funny, my mom actually was born Christian. She converted to being Orthodox. It's very strange. Only because she didn't want anybody to question her her at all. And my dad is very Israeli, but there's a difference between being like Jewish and being Israeli.
Okay.
Because Israelis are like, I'm Israeli, I don't have to do it. Like this, so it's like this. So my dad's actually both like Jewish culturally, because Judaism is actually a culture and a religion.
Culture.
One of the
Right.
only things that's actually both. Um, but what's fascinating is he's also an atheist.
Mm.
Like there's times where he's like saying the prayers and I'm like, why are you saying the prayers if you don't believe in a God or believe in a higher power or whatever it is? He's like, I don't do it for me, I do it for them, meaning he does it for his ancestors, he does it for his
Mm.
family, he does it to honor them and the history. And so to me there's like it's like a cultural spirituality.
Honor.
And
Yeah.
it's very interesting. And so I grew up, but my mom was also like studied Hinduism and Buddhism, so I grew up with like this more spirituality than I did religion by any means.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And Judaism was cultural rather than religious.
So did you have a bat mitzvah
I
at the
did.
time? Yeah. Cool. That's like the question, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. So you were Jewish enough to have a bat mitzvah. Okay, but not quite enough. Yeah.
I'm
It's
Israeli.
like,
We're definitely going to be bar and bat mitzvah. There's like no questions asked. No matter how religious or non-religious you are getting bar and bat mitzvah. So
yeah,
yeah.
love that. Love that. Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes people, the only community that seems to really understand this is the Jewish community, and it's being Mormon it's really more like a culture than it is a religion.
Interesting.
It's a lot newer, obviously. It's like brand new. It's like 200 years old, but it was a bunch of people who married each other and they all became family, and then now there's 20 million of them. It's one family. We're all related to Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, you know.
That's amazing.
And so for a lot of people, to be Mormon is more for them about staying connected to the family and to the culture of sharing community. things like that. So I actually I appreciate that distinction and sort of how we stole that idea from the Jews. Mormons want to be Jews so bad. They really do. They do. They love Jews. They love the tribe of Israel. It's all about the 12 tribes of Israel and all about the chosen people in the promised land and we believe the return of the Messiah, or
Yeah.
Mormons believe the return of the Messiah of everything.
Yeah.
So we were totally raised being like, I remember when I first actually met real Jewish people, I was like, this is really we're not Jewish. You know, there's not that Mormons say that they're Jewish, but there were like some things that really confused my young mind about like how we are of the tribe of Ephraim. Like there's like some things like that where I was like, what? Okay. So this is not okay, but Jesus is a Jew and he's God. Okay, so we're not Jewish for some reason. I'm going to choose God's religion. No, okay.
Yeah, won't get into all the crazy anti-Semitism these days, which is just won't get into it. But it's
exactly
just
let there be truth. Let truth prevail. Let there be wisdom. Let people who don't have wisdom lose their microphones. Like, it's one thing freedom of speech, it's another thing freedom of amplification of speech. Like, come on.
Yeah, 1,000%, 1,000%. And I'm glad people, because I've been watching the anti-Semitism for a long time, because as a kid, like I grew up in a fairly like Jewish community. We're Israeli, like every Israeli for some reason knows each other. But I didn't really deal with anti-Semitism except for knowing like my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. But like because of social media, like I get death threats for being Jewish, which is insane to me.
Wow.
Like it is absolutely insane to me. And I'm so glad, because I was watching it build and build and build. And to the point that finally this past week, like people are actually speaking up and speaking up for the Jewish people. Because to me, when you're bashing one, you're actually bashing all, because you just create more division. So how can we just create more oneness, more love for all humanity? I think we still subscribe to these archaic beliefs that we're still at war with one another, instead of like, we're all just human beings doing the best that we know how in this physical human experience, like on the spiritual journey. Can we just love each other simply? Anyways, that's enough of my spiel, but
I love that. Do you go to Israel often?
I do. Yeah, I haven't been since like the pandemic, but usually I go every year. So I'm going in April, which is, first time in a minute, which will be,
wow.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing. And so I know you've got a few projects that are in pre-production, a few projects that are in post-production. Are there any that you can share about right now?
Well, there's one that I'm directing, that I did a rewrite on for the script. It's a true story about a domestic violence survivor, but it's done in a very artistic and creative way, which I'm really excited to play with. Then
Beautiful.
I've been also hired to direct some really fun pieces for this company basically that supports coaches. It's called Quantium. It's a new company. Mike Tyson is one of the clients that I'll like direct, which is very exciting. So like just some like random things like that. And then acting wise, there's a lot of things on the horizon that I'm doing. But I get a little superstitious about it until like I'm on set. It's like a funny thing.
Totally.
There's some things coming out and I'm excited. Yeah, I'm just like, I feel like I'm able to fully live my creative life, and the music stuff is coming out, in the next couple of months too. So just keep watching. It's coming.
Love that. I love that this is such a fertile time for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We'll have the links to everything that you're up to in the show notes. And I'd love to have you on sometime, maybe when it's time to start promoting one of these things. We go into a deep dive about what you're up to at that point.
I would love that. Anytime you let me know and I'll be there.
Okay, amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.